like,
you're a great listener.
listen.
And it's working.
Not right now. See, I'm talking over
No,
you.
it's great. No, I've been just talking up a storm in this one. You guys are doing it.
No, I love it. Okay. So the other sense, human touch, I think this is so important because I'm a huge advocate for massage. Like anytime that I can.
It's my love language.
I was just telling Jade earlier, this is going to be
Touch.
the fucking weirdest, creepiest story ever, but our listeners by now can handle it. So last night I was dreaming, or really this morning, I woke up from a dream where my cats were involved, and one of my cats, who is a big cat, he suddenly was not, he's like a stray cat. He has regular, gray fur, he's not a naked Sphinx cat, but in my dream, he was a big, huge Sphinx cat with no fur. And my husband has been gone for 2 weeks. So I'm kind of like starved of physical attention, like human touch. And so in the dream, I literally see my cat. I'm like, I need to pick him up for some reason. And I pick him up. I'm like, oh, your skin's so warm. And then I bring him in, I'm by my bed or whatever. I put him in the bed next to me. He's huge. And now I'm cuddling him like he's a human. And I remember waking up from that dream like, fuck, I need to be reunited with a human.
Yeah, I feel that. Oh,
but
man.
no, I mean, human touch is huge.
So human touch, I think, is one of the strongest indicators that you're actually being accepted, loved, and cared for. So somebody can get you a watch, and it's like, cool, you got me a watch. Like that's great. Maybe you value materials and gifts.
That might be their love language,
or whatever. But I even still, I would suspect that most people at a pretty darn deep level, being held is gonna trump a lot of that stuff, because think of like as a baby, like if you get a baby a watch, he does not give a shit.
Right.
If the baby is crying and you hold the baby and rock, and if you give the baby a little rattler thing or whatever, so I guess it does take attention. So I guess I kind of disagree with myself a little bit.
But it's a core need.
And how powerful is it when like you're in conflict with someone and you decide to touch each other?
Right.
Exactly.
That was was that one of our magic tricks? We said, if you're in conflict with my mom does this. She says, when she's yelling at her boyfriend, she tells him, put your hand out. Like mad. She's mad. Not yelling at him, but when they're having an argument, she doesn't ever yell. She'll say, put your hand out, and he'll have to put his hand out, and she goes like this. And then we can continue talking, because they have to make a connection. Like one finger on the palm.
Yeah, it's electricity. We're always doing that. So there's like the Romanian orphanages is like a very apparent example. In the late 80s, the dictator there was suggesting that people have lots of kids and not use any birth control. And then there ended up being all these extra babies and not enough caretakers. And then what happened with that was the kids would not grow. It was called failure to thrive. And essentially, hypothetically, what happens with that is a child doesn't get the signal that they're being cared for, which means that they are not safe to grow. And then their systems slow down and kind of go into this hibernation type mode. So I personally feel, which doesn't need to relate to anybody else, but I personally feel like touch almost feels like a form of nutrition. Sometimes way more nutritious than like eating a burrito. So
I'm
having that
right now.
Yeah, well, we should all get together and have a hug. Seriously, it's real talk. I mean, it's a really big thing. Like again, we're all these bacterial, spiritual, cellular organism things that wear pants and shirts and give each other names and titles and hierarchical positions in the world and whatnot. But underneath that, it's all just biology. And their biology really values a safe environment to be able to grow. And putting an arm on somebody's hand, on somebody's arm, or on somebody's thigh sends them all of that information that, oh, wow, they accept me. So you see this immediately in conversation. If you're on a date with a person, any halfway sensitive dude would know that if a girl puts her arm on your leg, it's an indication you're doing something right. And if she kind of turns her hips away and kind of just doesn't want to have anything to do with touching you, that's like, okay, well, like, I'm flailing. I don't know how to make it better, but it's not working. Whatever I'm doing isn't working.
Yeah. And I was just telling Mercedes in the last couple of weeks that because I have struggled with anxiety so bad that my partners who have shamed me for it or not wanted to enable me thinking that if I got a reaction from them, I would continue like having anxiety, I guess, because it was like a reward. That would make my anxiety like 10 times worse. Whereas like when a partner, they didn't have to coddle me or baby me, but if they would just put their hand on my shoulder or on my leg or just hold my hand, that slowly but surely the anxiety would sees,
Yep. Because it's
So,
such a darn strong indicator that you're accepted and loved
and safe. Yeah.
and safe. Yeah.
Speaking of human touch, we talked about at our last event, do you still only not orgasm but ejaculate once a
Yeah, I
week?
still keep it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's going to change anytime soon.
Mm.
So, I mean, like every couple weeks or something like that.
Oh, it's every couple weeks.
Yeah, something like that.
Mm.
Yeah, it just depends on it's kind of like food, it depends upon how much upon what you're doing. I usually will not ejaculate before something I really care about, for some like sporting event or something like that. If I'm going to do a triathlon or something, like probably not going to do that before. So it varies. I don't have a Google calendar of when to ejaculate. Yeah.
Do you feel like your orgasms are more along the lines of like a tantric orgasm where they're stronger because you hold off on ejaculation?
Yeah. So I find the best thing that I found with slowing and kind of like tempering orgasm in general is that you're able to go much longer, obviously, and actually enjoy the experience and actually experience sexuality and touch through your whole body as being pent up all right into your cock. So that's the thing that I've really found exceptionally valuable about that is it slowly with time, it moves that sensation away from just the penis and becomes more of like a full body experience. I'm not like a tantric guru that I'm having like electrical firestorms.
So you're not having like multiple orgasms because of it.
I don't have full orgasms in the way that like a ejaculation orgasm.
Okay.
Essentially, it's more like edging is kind of where I occupy. So feeling all the same contractile sensations of orgasm, but not going all the way over the edge and then coming back down and then kind of occasionally coming back to like a 7 or an 8.
Okay, so it's almost a multiple orgasm.
I guess I don't know. Maybe.
How did you teach yourself to do this?
Oh, I read books and practiced. Yeah, there's like the multi-orgasmic male is like one of the really
multi-orgasmic male.
Yeah, it's like one of the like really classic ones about it. But there's different ones. Look up Montauk Chia. He gets into a lot of information around it. But yeah, it's just practice.
Do you find your partners they feel some certain way because they're used to having?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, sometimes. That's okay. They're like, at first it's like, most people think it's pretty cool. And every now and again, there's been people that have been a little bit like, oh, like I want you to do that. And then they get over it. It's fine. No big deal.
Yeah. Okay. So Lisa on Instagram, one of our Magic Mobbers, asks, how important is the type of footwear we wear? And what about high heels?
Yeah. So high heels have been a tool that have been used throughout history. It was Henry the 14th. It was either Henry or Louis. No, it was Henry. He was the initiator of the red high heel, and it was an indication of his royalty and his cabinet's royalty. So they would all wear red high heels. His were 5 inches tall, and then his cabinet would wear one slightly lower. And then if they would get kicked out of it, they would actually lose their heel privilege. And then everyone would know. They were also used from Persian soldiers on horseback to be able to help keep their feet in the stirrups while shooting a bow. There's all sorts of interesting history around heels. So they're predominantly masculine, actually, which is interesting. So they've been used as tools forever. And in the book, I conclude that heels on a very short-term basis, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's somewhat of a kind of bummer stuffing your feet into that, but your body can adapt if you have enough of a full self-care practice and movement practice outside of that. The issue comes when heels is your common mode of ambulation, of walking, then you're potentially setting yourself up for issues. One thing that's fascinating is range of motion in the ankles is actually tied to neurological function. So you can look up on PubMed, there's been correlates of chronic heel usage to incidences of schizophrenia.
Oh my God.
So it messes with, it's called the dopaminergic system in the brain. And so literally like your brain doesn't exist in this floating vacuum bag inside of your head. Your ankles and your knees and your pelvic floor and your organs and your throat and all of that, it's an extension of your brain. It is your brain. So if you shut down an aspect of your body that would naturally do what it's naturally done since the beginning of forever for humanity, it shuts down a part of you. So if you're shutting down a part of your ankle range of motion all day long, it's not recommended. So footwear in general try to keep it as low as possible. So the heel drop would be as low as possible. The big, most important thing that people can make sure they are paying attention to is having a wide toe box. So you want your feet to be able to spread out as much as they possibly can. So when you put your foot into a shoe, spread your toes. And if you're stuffed in there, just get a different shoe. So there's like Lems and Vivo Barefoot, and there's a handful of different companies. I think Vivo Barefoot, I think I have a code, a line. Maybe type in a line if you get Vivo Barefoot. I'm not sure if it works.
It's interesting how like people, like our culture thinks that heels are so sexy, and then like those types of footwear are like weird.
Right.
Yeah. Pain has become, is a line in the book. It's interesting that pain has become conflated with beauty. It's very interesting. I mean, that happened in like the Song dynasty in China with foot binding, the long neck tribes in Thailand wrapping rings around, which I would actually, this is pretty darn debatable, but I would suggest that the rings around the neck is almost less deleterious to your mechanical function than wearing high heels all the time, because the rings around the neck, they aren't actually lengthening the cervical vertebra. They're actually just pushing the shoulders down. So I think actually some rings around the neck, I would actually take that over heels.
Are they never anxious then? Because their shoulders are always down.
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question. My guess is it would diminish anxiety, but that's me just taking a stab in the dark.
Set up this science experiment. We're headed to tribes in Africa.
Yeah, exactly.
So another question from the Magic Mob, Stan on Instagram asks, what are some things I can implement to make my home and office more conducive to me getting my daily movement needs met? You said floor time.
Spend time on the ground anytime you can. Put your cell phone outside of that place. So every time you need to use it, you need to get up off of the ground and go walk across the house or whatever to go grab it. Do bonus points and put it in the mailbox. And that way you have to walk outside. Set a Pomodoro type timer thing where, whatever, set your cell phone, whatever. Doesn't need to be like a specific thing, but just set a timer for 25 minutes would be a fine example. Do concentrated work intervals and then take at least a 5-minute, or maybe not at least, take a 5-minute break in between. That break, stretch yourself out, maybe go hang off of something, walk outside, make sure you're looking out into the distance as you do so. Look up into the trees, notice the clouds, take your sunglasses off because that sun hitting your eyes is actually crucial to your whole production of neurochemistry. Sunglasses are good for you at night. Sunglasses during the daytime, unless you're driving over a bypass and the sun's like going into your eyes and you can't see, I wouldn't recommend wearing sunglasses very often. Like your body's built to absorb sun. Like the us fearing, it depends on where you're at in the world. If you're in the equator, it's a vastly different conversation than if you're in Alaska. And we have this one size fit model, or fits all model of like our exposure to sun. That doesn't make any sense. So if you're a person that lives in north of, I think it's maybe Georgia. I forget. Anyway, if you're a person in any northern latitude at all, go out there and get sun on your body. If you're a person that's like getting close to, Mexico territory, maybe start really paying attention to that. But if you're in, Washington or any of those places, like get as much sun as you possibly can. Put a window. Sorry, that was a tangent into sun stuff. Office stuff is put a window in your office. Ideally, look out it regularly. Open it as well, so you're getting all of the. Hopefully, you have like some plants and stuff near your office, but you're getting all of those. They're called phytoncides and the various different chemicals that come off of plants that make you happy and boost your immune system. Get those things in your house, and even better, bring those plants into the house to reoxygenate the air and be, again, producing all those feel-good chemicals. That's a start.
Yeah, I like that. I think NASA provides the sun moon azimuth table if you really want to nerd out and figure out when the sun is best absorbed in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I forget. I was literally listening to it just recently. I think it's like above Atlanta. It's not Atlanta, Georgia. It's somewhere like that. People above that state, that latitude, are during half of the year are not going to meet their
needs. Yeah.
And so,
hey, I was thinking, because I just learned the other day that when cats sleep in the sun, or dogs, I believe, do this too, then they lick their fur, they're licking the vitamin D off of their fur, actually.
That's cool.
Can we lick ourselves after we go in the sun? Will we help this? I mean, I know it's the only way to sulfate vitamin D is for it to hit, the sun to hit our skin directly, and it's got to be the right type of sun rays and all that. But once we do that, I know we're just absorbing it through our dermis. What if we lick it? Does that like help us get this shit in us?
You have to ask a dog. I'm not sure.
Or try it yourself, Mercedes.
I'm going to be like way OD'd on vitamin D, just licking my own arms all the time.
Yeah, I don't know.
Could be good. Okay, so where are we?
Morning.
So this is kind of another question for myself, but I think a lot of our listeners are likely driving while they're listening to our show. So you got any movement tips related to them sitting in our beautiful traffic?
Yeah, there's a whole chapter in the book called Aligning. I think it's called Aligning Your Travel. Align Your Travel? It's probably something like that. Something about aligning your travel. And so a bunch of things. One, if you're on a long trip, use compression socks so blood's just not, and lymph and all that isn't just pulling up in your lower compartments. The other thing is put like either a sweatshirt or maybe like a small water bottle or something like that behind your thoracic spine, so you're not continually just like caving forward into that position. There's in the book as well, I break down these isometric exercises that people can play with using their steering wheel and or the kind of like sidewalls in your car. So you can kind of press your feet down against the ground for a little bit, press your knees out against the sides, do some abduction is the name of that position. So you're turning on like the side of the booty muscles and all that. Just twist, try to play with like breaking the wheel type thing. So external rotation, medial rotation, pushing against the wheel, pulling against the wheel, just to add more stimulus, so all of those little movements are literally going to compress those muscles, circulate fluid through your body. Big issue is we're not well circulated enough. Walking is one of the best things you can do to circulate yourself. We just don't do it a lot. So while you're in a car, that would be a few things that you could do, and take more breaks. Like, what's your rush? If you're in the car for an hour and a half or whatever, like get out and take a walk and, have a chill. So I'd say like every hour or so, give yourself 5 minutes. So if you're in the car for 2 hours, give yourself 10 minutes. Kind of rule you can play with.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I fly a lot. So like using the compression socks, trying to walk around the plane a lot.
When they let you. They get so mad at me.
No, it's okay.
Sit down.
You might be literally saving somebody from a blood clot. That's a thing that happens. I have the number. I think I have the number written in the book. How many people get blood clots in the United States each year? I don't remember what it is, but it's very high. And so something like that it's as simple as just walking. Like that's the prevention.
Yeah. Wow. What's your morning routine?
Sun is the very first thing. So that's the most important thing that I will make sure to get up out of bed and go expose as much of my skin as possible to the sun, including eyes. So that sets the circadian rhythm. And again, it sets you up for feeling well. So the sun, specifically penetrating the eyes, is tied to production of dopamine and, various other neurotransmitters. And then water, music, movement, maybe throw some salt in your water is a nice thing to do. Pretty much that's it. I'd like to meditate and whatnot, but typically I'll just do like some exercise type thing, which would be more of the meditation for me.
Yeah.
And then meditation, I typically do more at night.
The first time I ever spotted you, you were meditating and doing yoga in the sun in the Kingsbury's backyard.
Yeah, you got to. It's the move. You got to do it, especially traveling. All of a sudden, those things start going up more.
Yeah. So you do a lot of cold exposure with your ice bath freezer in your backyard, and you're always bringing people in that thing. Do you do a lot of sauna work as well?
I have a sauna right beside the cold plunge. I do less. I do a lot less. I do hot yoga more than I do the sauna. The sauna it's more of a novelty for guests.
Cold therapy is more beneficial?
Sauna is more beneficial. It's just more bang for your buck in 3 minutes as opposed to the sauna in like 40 minutes. So I would take the sun over an infrared sauna any day.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's me. I typically veer towards that. But I also have a membership at a hot yoga studio. So
you're getting a lot of that.
Yeah. So I get pretty hot with
I'm
that.
Sponsored by Opry's Black Swan, which uses infrared, but I'm also sponsored by Evolve, which does infrared and cryo, and I can only do one a week, and I almost always choose infrared. So
mix
it up.
I think it depends. So if you choose that more regularly, I think there's something to doing the thing that makes you feel good and what you enjoy. And there's also typically, the thing that you don't want to do quite often is the thing that has the most value.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe for you, infrared is the way to go. But for me personally, I just find the effect of being really cold for 3 minutes, and then the whole thermogenic effect after that. And then I want to go run and I feel energized. To me, that's like, I like that sensation, but I think to each his own. They're both, you just need to take yourself out of room temperature. That's the thing, is your body just wants to adapt to something and it wants to grow. So if you go into heat, then it's like you get upregulated with heat shock proteins and it's good for your immune system and like all these things. If you go into cold, well, then you get the cold shock protein. It's like your body just wants to exercise, so it choose whatever, whatever you're going to do regularly, do that, so if you might, the cold thing, if it's between cold and hot, and the cold you do like once a month, but the hot you'll do every day, I would certainly say go for hot.
My ND, my naturopath doctor, who has helped me get back on track with my hormone levels, is all about cold therapy, mostly going in the ocean 20 minutes a day. We live right next to the Pacific Ocean, so that's like a possibility. But he also is all about ice baths. So I was doing that for a while, but it was stressing my body out like pretty bad. And so he's like, let's look up your maternal haplogroup, which I had a 23andMe test so I could see what that was. I have no idea on the science on this, but we looked that up. It sourced me back to my maternal haplogroup source is somewhere in Brazil. So it's D1E, if that means anything to anyone listening. But what he said was, well, you should likely be doing more hot therapies according to the region you're coming from. So I don't know if that correlates at all. And for me, I'll tell you that saunas, I love it. I mean, I can sit in the sun all day, but anything warm, I'm into it. You know what I mean? The cold stuff sucks, but it sucks for everybody. But I was getting literally sick every time just because I was, I think, overstressing myself.
Yeah. And with anything, so the stress of, so that's like you have more of an affinity to do the heat, so it's easier for you, so it's not as stressful. Right. It's not to say that you couldn't do cold, but your body would need to be pretty darn filled up with all of the self-care and all of, like, you'd have to be in a state where it's like, okay, I'm ready to take stress in.
Yeah, perfect immunity.
But a lot of people are kind of, if you relate it to like a bucket, like their bucket of stress is continually kind of, the stress juice is kind of
higher,
flopping out. And it's like right up there. For that person, the time isn't now for them to add a stressor into the system. The time is to figure out how they can get some of that stress out, but that's the game. That's like living at your boundaries, I think, is really healthy. But if you need to respect your boundaries and not just be slamming through them. It looks good on Instagram to slam through them, but it's not so sustainable. So I'd rather look good in Instagram in like 20 years. Like that's my goal. So you slamming through your stress boundaries now to get the photo or whatever isn't necessarily the wisest if you give a shit about yourself in 20 years. Your
long-term health. Is that a trend?
What?
I don't know, doing stressful ice baths on Instagram?
Oh, yeah, I think so. I mean, in the small little echo chambers that I live
in this niche,
Yeah. But I don't think there's, I think the ice represents more than just cold, it's like hard things that you didn't believe you could do. It's tapping you into your breath, maybe for the first time in a very long time, if not ever. It's, there's a lot of different levels to it. And in those situations, I think there's, I could disagree with what I was just saying before and say perhaps pushing yourself through that stress could kind of transcend you to this higher point.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I did it.
It can help you realize
I did it.
Totally.
And all of a sudden that new belief system starts to kind of augment the filters, and all of a sudden stress changes. So I think our bodies, and by I know our bodies are more complex than most of the statistics and stuff give them credit for. So
I love how you just contradicted yourself, but you totally claim it. It's something we do on the show. But
yeah, you got to.
It's true. It's just life.
Anything. We don't know.
It's gray area, man.
Yeah.
I love it. We love it. All right. So there's a few short questions we like to ask everyone who comes on the show. And of course, you answered these last time you were on. So it'll be interesting to see if any of your answers have changed this time around.
I don't remember what they are. So that's great.
Cool. If you could hug your younger self right now, what would you say?
Hug them?
If you could hug your younger self.
I'm hugging young Aaron.
Yes.
And I'm speaking to young Aaron as well.
Any age.
If I was hugging him, I don't think I would talk to him. I just give him a hug.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think that would be my response. If I was
Human
hugging him,
touch.
I just give him I would just have a man moment with young Aaron.
I love it. Young Aaron.
Young Aaron.
If you could have the whole world read one book, which would it be?
Besides yours.
Yeah. Right. I think I know what my answer to this before was. I like The Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl.
It was.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. That's still my answer.
Cool.
It's on my shelf.
Let's go.
Yeah.
If you could whisper one phrase to everyone on the planet, what would it be?
The first word that came up isn't necessarily what intellectually that I'd want, but it was the one that just like popped up in my head. So it was relax. Yeah. So that was the first word that popped up.
Relax.
Yeah, relax.
I like that.
Embody that.
Before we let you go, where can people find you online? And also, where can we find your book?
Oh, well, so thank you for asking about the book. And so depending on when this goes out, if you're listening to this before December 24th, 2020, thealignbook.com is where all the pre-sale stuff is.
2019.
That's what I meant to say. Very good point. It comes 2020 is 6 days after that. 2019. Yeah, thealignbook.com has all the pre-sale stuff, but you could go to Amazon or anywhere. It's up for pre-sale now.
Awesome.
And then after December 24th, 2019, get it anywhere. Bookstores, Amazon.
And the audiobook will also be available?
Audiobook is available. Recording it.
Yay. I'm excited for that.
So exciting.
It's like a 5.5 day journey of recording it. It's very interesting. And then
in your own voice. That's so awesome.
Yeah, and we're doing I'm learning how to communicate. It's very interesting. And we're doing in the audiobook, we're doing kind of like a podcast style interview thing between me and Phil White, who helped with co-writing of the book. So he's interviewing me. We're going to do the interview tomorrow. So you guys can hear what that is in the audiobook.
Cool.
And we're layering that on after each section of the book, which is kind of fun and exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then all my stuff as far as finding me, essentially just type Align podcast into the internet, and that's the stuff. So Instagram is that, the website's that, the podcast obviously is called Align Podcast. That's it. It's all my shizzle.
Get the book, guys. It's
Get the book, The Align Method.
There's so much in there too, so many nuggets that I was just like, damn, I didn't know that.
Good.
Now I'm like a Snapple cap. You don't know what kind of information is going to pop out.
You got the galley too. So that's 2 versions behind, or maybe no, it's even more than that. Anyways, it's a bunch of versions behind the final.
Feels like an honor though.
Yeah. So the final, I'm legitimately really excited about. So it's great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for educating us all on how to multitask with movements and showing us how simple it is to incorporate, movement into our daily lives. I think your efforts in helping people optimize these amazing miracles we call our bodies is super righteous. And hell yeah, buddy. Thanks for being a light.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Working on it. We're all lights. It's just the only thing that so there's a quote that I also have in the book. Andrew Taylor Still, founder of osteopathy. He said, harmony dwells where obstruction does not exist. And so underneath any of one's bullshit, which I certainly have, an abundance of, is a light. And then the process of being here on earth is just a process of kind of washing away that dirt that's squashing out that light from underneath. So I think sometimes we're like, oh, like she's special or he's special. It's like, we're all the same shit. We're all light. It's just, it's just each day, like, did you sweep your porch? And that's the thing. It's like every day, just sweep your porch. When people seem shinier, it's nothing that they've been endowed with this or that. I think it's just that they've been sweeping. Yeah,
I love that you say that. I think a lot of my, especially young life, I was always looking at people like, the president might be a really lofty goal, but it's just a human. He's just a person. Maybe Trump is a very bad example of that, but as a kid, it wasn't Trump. Anyway,
they poop and pee and cry and feel ashamed and
have alignment issues and movement needs, and they need sunshine.
That's the great thing with being like a manual therapist. I get to work with a lot of people that are considered in the world to be this high pedestal, oh my God, like light shining off of their bowel movements, and get to have, do body work with the people, and kind of like you get to see like, oh man, like they at this
Base
bacterial
level.
organism, structural, mechanical level, this person is jacked up.
Yeah.
And within that jack up is all sorts of fear and shame and love and light. And it's like, it's all of it. There's no person that's, if you come to a point where you're like immaculate being, like I don't know, I think you probably like turn into light and like float into space or something like that. Everybody's fucked up. So we can all share that.
I think that's what we share in common by doing this show, and you, the way you do your show, exploring these places that we just want to become better at because we can. Yeah. That's fucking why, because we can.
Yeah, that's it.
Aaron, what's your animal ally?
Oh, I don't know. The first thing that comes to mind is like a bear or an owl.
What do you normally become on plant medicine? Anything?
I haven't become an animal in plant medicine. I've become a baby. I've become a baby a bunch of times. Yeah, I've never become.
I've only ever seen someone as one animal before, ever. But I saw you as two, which is really odd, and I don't know why. Well, I saw you as a bear for a really long time.
Yeah.
And then you were also a turtle, which is interesting.
I love turtles.
You do?
Yeah, I was just in Hawaii a couple days ago.
It was so weird because you were a turtle and Mercedes said the word righteous. And I was thinking of like Nemo, all the turtles say righteous.
Yeah, I usually identify with bear. I don't know what the other one is. If
you were like so strongly a bear in the first majority of the interview. And then towards the last part, you were a turtle.
I get turtly.
Yeah.
Right. That's interesting. I'll have to read into what the heck that means.
Yeah.
I have a really good book about it. So I'll send you the pages about those two.
Cool. I love that. I appreciate it. That's fun. What a fun insight.
Yeah.
We thought you would already have known yours. That's interesting.
Yeah.
No, I'm like a hippie, but not like hippie enough. I need to go deeper.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate both.
All right. Anywho.
All right. Love talking to Aaron. He has got a lot of magic up his own sleeve. Speaking of magic, what do you got for us today, Jade?
So mine kind of has to do with this episode because we did talk about, well, it doesn't have to do with alignment, but it talks about being like your best self physically and mentally and health wise. So I guess to put it simply, it's to try to separate yourself from your phone as much as possible, but not for the reasons that Aaron was saying, but just to try to limit all the EMF exposure. So even like, this is something that's been, if my kids are in the house, it's not so hard for me, but it's a little bit hard for me to do. But like even putting your phone on airplane mode at night, think about it, you're asleep for 7-8 hours. Do you really need to expose yourself to that extra EMF waves? And I also unplug my Wi-Fi, but that is supposed to actually benefit your sleep and how deep you go in your sleep, because these EMF waves actually do keep you from reaching as deep sleep as possible. But so I'm sure if you know Aaron, you've probably heard of Dave Asprey also, because they kind of teach similar stuff. But there was a study about the extra tall, power lines. It's like those give off very strong EMFs.
The Gwen towers and all that's related on those power lines.
Yeah. So those have been linked to child cancers and birth defects. And this isn't to scare anybody, but if you already live near those transmission lines and moving isn't an option, you can install grounded metal shielding in your house for protection. I don't know if that's safe, but there's also things you can put on your windows. There's all types of stuff. But cell phone, so that's those towers, which is like an extreme case. But cell phones, if you look in the actual user manuals, and like most people don't do that, I haven't, it warns customers from keeping their cell phones, it like warns them to keep it away from their bodies. And and in one study, scientists reviewed 11 different reliable studies of people who had used cell phones for more than 10 years, and they found that cell phone use approximately doubles the risk of getting brain cancer on the side of the head to which the cell phone was usually held.
Yes.
So some tips that you can do when carrying a cell phone: maybe carry it in your purse instead of your pocket. Put it on airplane mode when you sleep, like I talked about. You can also use speakerphone, instead of holding it up to your phone, or like a wired headset or something. And it becomes normal once you start doing it, Same thing with laptops. If your laptop, never put it on your lap. Like always put it on your desk in front of you, especially if you're pregnant. The other thing is if your bed has metal in it, then it actually picks up those EMF waves like way more. Same with underwire bras. So if you are, near one of those towers, or you don't want to put your phone on airplane mode because you need it on for work or whatever, at least make sure that the cribs or the beds in your house don't have metal, and switch to metal-free bras. I haven't worn metal in my bras in years.
Same.
I know it's not as it doesn't make you
uplifting.
Right. It's not as uplifting. It's not as supportive, but you do get used to it. And it's also for me, it's a pain because it's hard to find 32D bras and wire free that are cheap.
I just cut the little place where the wire is and I pull it out.
I've tried that, and it takes away the shaping of most of my bras.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. So anyhow, those are ways to at least, minimize some of the EMF. But this is especially important though if a woman's pregnant, because there's been all types of crazy studies about the way it affects, a growing
Makes
baby
sense.
in a womb.
Or if you're trying to get pregnant, guys,
yes,
setting your computer on your balls all day long, by
oh
having
my
it on your
God,
lap.
having your phone in your front pocket,
Your front
right next to
pocket.
your
Yep.
balls, it actually does. You can Google that. It actually does affect how your
quality
ability
of your sperm,
your ability to get someone pregnant. But the thing to me is like all these things that you shouldn't do while you're pregnant. To me, I'm like, well, let's just not do them. Like if we, like I understand some things like sushi and like things like that, but if it's like not safe for you while you're pregnant, it's probably best that you don't do it anyways. In my opinion, most things.
You mean if you're not pregnant,
right?
Yeah, like exactly. Like if we're always telling women don't do all these things while you're pregnant, it's also like tell the world don't do these things generally because they are not good for you.
Yeah. But yeah, so if at the very least, I know for me, turning off my phone onto airplane mode at night, that's like something that I definitely do. Yeah. Unplugging my Wi-Fi. Like why? It's 8 hours a night that you could just eliminate the exposure.
It's a great tip. I actually was reading, I think, a book. It's called Collective Conscious or Conscious Collective. This is a while ago now, but it spoke specifically about EMF waves and the fact that brain doctors, because they see so many tumors from cell phones, but of course this isn't, science that people talk about much, so we don't take it as common information or common knowledge. They never, like brain surgeons apparently never put their phone up to their head ever. They always use speakerphone. And
I don't ever do it.
Yeah.
And also
I'm worried about the AirPods and all that.
Yes, the AirPods, because it's Bluetooth and 5G, whatever. So 5G, they've already said like there's so many risks to that, but we're almost all on 5G now.
Yeah.
So
it's scary.
The least you can expose yourself. But I wanted to say, if you were to put a plant by your Wi-Fi browser, or if you were trying to grow a plant wherever, not Wi-Fi browser, but sorry, your Wi-Fi modem.
Okay.
If you were to put a plant there or to plant seeds and try to grow a plant, it will not grow. And you can Google that. You can see the difference in a plant that's near a Wi-Fi modem and a plant that's not. And it affects the way that plant grows. And we are very similar, so.
That ain't right.
Yeah. Anywho, what's your magic? Hopefully it's more uplifting.
Well, it's basically to use a squatty potty or a stool in order to poop. Because as you guys know, if you've been listening for a while, I am what we call a pactivist here on the show. Pooping.
I'm not, but I have a squatty potty. I love it.
You're not what?
I'm not a pactivist or whatever you called it.
Well, of course you are.
Oh, I am?
You're a pooping period activist, aren't you?
Oh, yes. Okay. Move on. Go ahead.
Oh, yes. Put that label on me. Add it to the list. Thank you. It's a made up one. Okay, Jade, you can take it. Yeah. So because I want you guys to have the healthiest guts and colons as possible, because that was always a part of my struggle, I'm coming at you with another magic trick evolving around your poop habits. So I use a squatty potty. I'm not promoting the brand by any means unless they want to come sponsor the show. But if you can use a stool, anything near your toilet that'll kind of raise your feet up from the ground, because we are supposed to be, our bodies are really designed to be defecating on flat ground. So you want to be squatting deeper than 90 degrees if you can. And when you get into that position, the reason that works is because it changes the way that your colon and rectal line up, so that essentially when you're in the squat, it takes away the kink that's normally there that stops you from pooping yourself, that keeps you able to maintain continence. And so when you get into the squat, it kinks that area and allows for your stool to flow more easily out of your body. So you're having fuller evacuations, you're having fuller movements, and it's going to help you a ton. It's going to help you go to the bathroom faster. You shouldn't be having any pushing happening whenever you're pooping. And it's going to allow you to get everything out you need out. And I'm telling you, this is life-changing. And it has been for me. I tell all my friends. My girlfriend was over here the other day watching my cats when I was gone, and she's been using my squatty potty. And so she's like, I am getting one of those. I've never had as good of poops as when I'm at Mercedes' house. So yeah, do that, guys. Make it easier on your whole body, and it's going to help you, not have issues with hemorrhoids and any other complications that come along with having to push or not be fully evacuated, keeping toxins in your body and such.
Awesome. Yeah, I love it. They also, my kids use it. So
the stool.
Yeah. And I think we're the only country that doesn't really go to the
Squat
bathroom in
over
that
a hole.
position.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most countries squat over a hole. I mean, we're not the only country, but in the Western world, we have this idea that it's more civilized to sit on a throne, but it really actually is damaging us. So let's change it up. All right, guys, that's it. It's enough poop talk for today. We're gonna get all of our movement in because Erin has the most amazing advice. Before we sign off, we want to remind you guys that we're doing a little giveaway where we basically want you to just leave us a rating and review on the podcast app, whatever one you're listening on now, and you can actually do it right now as I'm speaking to you. And once you've written your review, just snapshot it, post it on your Instagram, tag our Instagram at The Majic Hour, AJIC, and then we'll see it. And we will be picking a couple of winners each month to get a $100 Amazon gift card. And as you guys know, those reviews you send in are what warm our hearts up and get us to keep coming back and doing this show. So even if you're not in it for the gift card, we will appreciate it so, so much. Send us your love and we will send you some back.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much, Magic Moppers, for doing that and for just tuning in and taking this journey with us. If this episode held some magic for you, please share it with your friends and family. This would mean so much to us. And don't forget to join us on our Instagram page at The Majic Hour and let us know what your favorite episodes have been so far. We appreciate all your feedback and want to know what's lighting you up.
Go listen to our past episodes in the podcast library now. We'll meet you there. Until then,
be a light.